Did you know we're still in Biden's economy? The US economy shrank. This doesn't happen very often. Imports for the first quarter went up massively, which is almost certainly in large part because businesses wanted to stock up on their supply before the tariffs hit. That makes sense. Keep in mind this is for quarter one, right? So up until the beginning of April. Imports subtract from GDP, so the contraction in growth may not be viewed as negatively given the potential for this trend to reverse. The report provided cross signals for the Fed. While the negative growth number might push the central bank to consider lowering interest rates, inflation readings could give policymakers pause. Stagflation! We'll see how things go. After all, these reports are only describing a pre-tariff environment. But yeah, it's possible we might be, again, producing the worst case scenario, which is stagflation. That would be when the economy is going down, but also inflation is going up. It's sort of the worst case scenario because it limits what the central bank is capable, what the Fed is capable of doing to respond to it. You know, usually raising interest rates lowers inflation, but makes it more difficult for the economy to grow and vice versa. So you kind of have to prioritize one, you get the other issue, you know, whatever. It's not great. Here, hit me with the summary.
First quarter advanced GDP and employment cost index data hitting the wires as we speak. Steve Weissman is back at the table. Rick Santelli's in Chicago at the CME, and he's got the numbers.
Yes, first quarter, our first look at GDP expected to be down a couple of tenths. And what we end up with is down 0.3%. Down 0.3%.
That's great, man.
We haven't had a negative number since minus 1%. That was in the first quarter of 22. That's what we're comping to. On consumption, better than expected. 1.8%. Better than the 1.2, 1.3 we were looking for, but less than half of the 4% in the rearview mirror. And 1.8 would be the lightest going back to.
So again, hear that, okay? Consumption was down significantly in the first quarter, even though that was pre-tariffs and pre-inflation, and people might have been buying more in anticipation of the upcoming tariffs. To put it another way, when you look at this combined with the very low consumer confidence report from the past month, it's looking like really bad. Yeah, it's about to get real bad. You know, you don't need to be an econ major to figure this one out. These are all doomsaying numbers. Okay, people are scrawling lamb's blood on their door to keep the the econ ghosts out. It's not looking good. It's not looking good.
The second quarter of 23. If we look at the pricing index, it's on the warm side, 3.7%. That's about 0.5% higher than expected, and 2.3 in the rearview mirror. 3.7 equals the last quarter of 22. You have to go to the previous quarter, the third quarter of 22, to find a higher number. And in terms of the core pricing index, it is 3.5%, about 0.4 higher than expected, and that is 0.9 higher than 2.6 in the rearview mirror. And
that's great, man. Keep in mind, by the way, that if we're taking a look at the value of the dollar, the DXY, the dollar index, look at this, man. I've said this before, but it's still crazy. US DXY was up to basically 110 right near the beginning of the year. Right now, it's down to 100. The dollar has lost about 9% of its value since the beginning of the year. Yee! There's a reason why gold prices are soaring right now. The value of the dollar is it's not looking great. It's plummeting, actually. In a short time frame, especially considering the fact that these adjustments to the dollar's value were before the tariffs really hit, like we're still kind of waiting for that to really hit. This is all anticipatory price changing. That's pretty nasty. Yeah, see, the goal is that if we make every dollar worth dog shit, we can pay off our debt for basically nothing. See, we just need to print the world's very first $30 trillion bill. Hand that over to ourselves, and congratulations, motherfucker, US is debt-free. Yay! I never thought I would turn into a buy gold guy, but I'm not gonna lie. As long as society doesn't completely collapse, I've been hearing some convincing arguments. Yeah, you get 1 grain of gold for a tier 4 sub. That's the new incentive program. Where the f to even buy gold? Oh, you can't. There are markets. Incoming gold sponsor? No. That being said, a lot of people are buying gold right now. What's the gold price? Oh, it's down 0.6% today. I see gold futures are up over the past year to date. You can see it right there on the left-hand side. Over the past 6 months, the average price of gold has rocketed an ounce from around 2,700 to 3,300. Pretty big Pretty big gain. Better than investing in Nvidia, I'll tell you that much. Gold is at record high prices. If you want to buy gold, you missed the boat. Isn't that kind of like dumb? Like just because something goes up doesn't mean it can't go up more in the future. I mean, we haven't even seen the real crash yet, by the way. Lego is still worth more. Well, you know. Yeah, you always miss the boat in finance because you're always being inspired by the growth that you see before. The reason you get into anything investment related is because you're looking at it and going, wow, somebody else made money off it. I really missed the boat. But then it turns out there's another boat, right? There's usually more boats. I'm not advocating people buy gold, I think. This isn't financial advice. Anyway, in response to the quite bad Q1 GDP report, let's take a look at 2 Trump Truth Social posts. This is the Trump stock market because my polls against Biden are so good that investors are projecting that I will win and that will drive the market up. Everything else is terrible, and record-setting inflation has taken its toll. Make America great again. That's from January 9th, 2024. Let's take a look at a Truth Social post from today, 29th, 2024. Now here's from today. This is Biden's stock market, not Trump's. I didn't take over until January 20th. Tariffs will soon start kicking in and companies will start to move into the US in record numbers. Our country will boom, but we have to get rid of the Biden overhang. This will take a while, has nothing to do with tariffs, only that he left us with bad numbers. But when the boom begins, it'll be like no other. Be patient. Yeah, Trump on November 5th, 2028. Guys, that was all Biden. Everything you just saw, pointing back at like the ruined, flaming remnants of DC behind him. All that shit, all of that was Biden, by the way. True, he'll do that? Yes, he will. And he'll believe it. He'll be 100% sincere from his perspective. Anyway, the funny thing is that the stock market actually didn't do that poorly today. I think it went up overall. So he's complaining, he's saying the stock market is Biden's responsibility. The real thing that got hurt today wasn't the stock market. It was the GDP report from Q1. So, you know, yeah, the all caps nothing to do with tariffs is extremely funny.
Much of it we don't need. You know, somebody said, oh, the shelves are going to be open. Well, maybe the children will have $2 instead of $30, you know, and maybe the $2 will cost a couple of bucks more than they would normally. But we're not talking about something that we have to go out of our way. They have ships that are loaded up with stuff, much of which, not all of it, but much of which we don't need. Much of it we don't.
If you're looking at it from a psychological perspective, because it's all psychology with Trump, he doesn't actually like know anything and nobody clues him in on anything. You have to understand that he grew up like after World War II. The greatest time in his life, the period that he reminisces about, that he waxes nostalgic for, would have been before economic globalization. He lived through and developed in his formative years an understanding of American domestic manufacturing when it was at top of the world. For a while, we were the domestic manufacturing center of the world because we were the only industrialized country that hadn't gotten f***ed over by World War II. Except for Pearl Harbor, all of it happened elsewhere, you know? So a lot of his love of tariffs mostly stems from the fact that he thinks he's bringing America back to that point in time. He's not, but I do think that he thinks that. The degrowth shit's pretty funny, though. Trump literally being like, okay, so the economy is going to do great, but also you'll have far less and you'll like it. Real Carl Schwab stuff, right? You'll own nothing and you'll be happy. To be clear, by the way, I'm in favor of a kind of degrowth. I just think that it needs to be framed and understood properly, right? I think that degrowth needs to be culturally emphasized, not economically mandated. Unless you're talking about something like car use, because in that case, the incentives that you want to put forward need to be stuff like very good public transport. You can't just make cars more expensive. I think that's inhuman. Right? Like, I hate cars, but there are a lot of Americans who live in cities that are basically incapable of being navigated without cars. So what are they supposed to do if they can't afford a car, right? Like, I mean, like, obviously I'm not out here to just let everyone not walk. You don't understand how America's built, man. You don't understand how America's built. There are lots of places across this country that you couldn't do it. I'm a walker. I love walking, and I gotta say, some of these places, I'm not gonna be walking to get my groceries. 2-hour walk to pick my kid up from elementary school, that. Anyway, there are responsible ways to handle degrowth. Obviously, this isn't it. I just know that some people are going to be like, well, don't you think it's good that people are getting like fewer, more expensive items? I mean, in theory, if practiced well, yeah. But I want people to value those things because there's more meaning to them. For example, if you have a person who has a very nice outfit of a wardrobe full of nice clothing that they've like cultivated over a life of caring about it, and you were like, hey, what if you want to trade all that out for a wardrobe that's 30 times as large, but everything in it is cheap crap? They would say no. If you went up to a person who really likes, say, good cappuccinos and like a pastry in the morning, the average Italian, I suppose, and you were like, hey, do you want to pay 10% less on that, but they taste like dog shit? It's like a Starbucks cappuccino and like a reheated Starbucks little pastry next to it. Do you want to pay 10 cents less per meal for that instead? They would probably say, you eat shit, arrivederci. Italians care a lot about their espresso. I just want people to care about things in general. We do thoughtlessly consume a lot, This just isn't the way to do it. One thing that's really pissed me off, by the way, is this trend of people saying like, you can cuck the big fashion designer brands by going straight to the manufacturers in China and just getting it there for much cheaper. Like, there have been so many massive Twitter and TikTok videos where young people have been like, hey, what's your hack? Look at these Chinese marketplace stores where you can buy like a Chanel bag for like $50 or something. And it's like, if you want a Chanel bag, you can thrift it or whatever. You're not buying a Chanel bag. You're buying a knockoff, which you can buy in America. If you want, they're knockoffs. Do you really think that Chanel is contracting a factory to produce their bags, but Chanel is also contracting the factory, even though they're producing extras they sell illegally on their own margins? I thought it was for the manufacturers. Do you think the manufacturers of Chanel bags are legally allowed to just go, oh, no, we'll sell to you directly? We make these super high quality bags that cost a lot everywhere in the world, but like we'll also sell to you directly. Why would Chanel do business with that manufacturer? They don't have those contracts. And it takes a lot of skill to make a Chanel bag. Maybe not as much as it's worth, but yeah, if you want a knockoff, just walk to the fashion district of LA. Exactly. They sell products that got rejected because of minor imperfections. Oftentimes, no, Chanel would not allow that. Why would Chanel allow people to get essentially like almost perfect Chanel bags for much, much, much cheaper by going through the manufacturer in a process that Chanel doesn't profit from at all? You can get factory seconds from some brands, but you get them from the brand itself. If you're not getting it from the brand, you're getting a ripoff. Or not a ripoff, I guess. You're getting a knockoff. I guess it just kind of sucks to have like knockoffs of designer bags when there's lots of like cool bags out there that you could get locally that support local artists and stuff. I don't know. Or don't buy brand handbags. Well, I don't really care about Chanel bags. I guess I'm talking more or less about the general idea, I just want people to care. Like, if you're prowling around Chinese direct from manufacturer sales for like American designer clothing or bags or whatever, you probably don't care about the quality of the item. You probably care about like having the designer label on it, which is cheap consumerist bullshit. If you want a high quality bag, you can probably find some made in America that are a lot cheaper than Chanel. I don't know. I'm just using it as an example.
A crucial new report showing the U.S. economy shrinking for the first time in 3 years. The GDP fell at a rate of 0.3% as President Trump's massive and ever-changing tariffs rattle consumers and businesses. Moments ago, on his 101st day in office, the president tried to pin this data on his predecessor.
Core GDP, and this is, you probably saw some numbers today. And I have to start off by saying that's Biden. That's not Trump, because we came in on January, this is the quarterly numbers, and we came in and I was very against everything that Biden was doing in terms of the economy.
And I'm joined here by some...
Sorry, I needed that little bit there. You're going to keep hearing this for the rest of his presidency, by the way. I know it's late workwear bags. From Filson? Yeah, Filson makes good bags. At the flagship store they have in Seattle, they have a little workshop where they have artisans come over and like make handmade stuff over there that you can buy like on the spot. Like, they're not mass manufactured or anything. They just have some like Filson branded stuff that they kind of put together, That's awesome. Yeah, it's pretty cool. Filson's gone downhill lately. Private equity shit, unfortunately, but Filson still makes some good stuff. Some good stuff, even though it's too expensive. So they're basically made to order. No. It's just a craftsman like making stuff there, and you can buy it if you want.